once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm here tonight with Justin. How you doing, Jazz?
I am great, Gav. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Apologies for the long break between podcasts. We didn't mean to leave you for 2.5 weeks without a podcast, but schedules got in the way. We've got a time difference thing. We will overcome it and we'll get back to normal. But it's just taken a little while.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, for sure. Well, just obviously, Arsenal news is kind of a little bit thin on the ground because we're in international tournament time. So let's take a look at how some of our players have done at the tournament. Funnily enough, I don't think it's been the best tournament for Arsenal players, actually. But let's take a look. Let's start with the boys that are still there. So congratulations to England and Spain reaching the final. We're recording this the day after England beat Holland. Sorry, Juz, to get to the final.
Yes, we are.
Where did you watch the game? Did you go out for it? Did you just watch it at home?
I wanted to go out for it. My wife had to do a work training, so unfortunately I sat in my bed with my laptop on my stomach and watched it, and it was not the best way to watch it.
Yeah. Well, it was. I mean, I was kind of working and watching it at the same time, so I kind of only had half an eye on it. But the first half, it was England's best half of the tournament, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I thought England was very sharp in the first half,
and then the second half kind of just went into almost nothingness, really. I think, but the start was good. I thought Rice was decent. I thought Saka was good again. For me, Saka's been England's best player, certainly going forward. He's been England's best player in this tournament. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think he's been excellent. His performance in the quarters was excellent, and of course, he would have had another goal as well yesterday had it not been for Walker offside. So now that's Walker and Foden that have robbed Saka of goals at this tournament.
Yeah, mate. I think Saka's been brilliant despite I don't know how much you want to get into to team tactics or anything. I think Saka's been really brilliant, and
I mean, the team's been dysfunctional, hasn't it? You've got, I think you've got Foden, Bellingham, and Kane who all like to operate in the same area of the pitch,
exactly,
like that number 10. And even though they do it in different ways, I just think you can play all three. I think it should be one of the three. And that's kind of, and what it does is it leaves Saka very isolated on the right-hand side. Walker's had an absolute mare of a tournament behind him, and that hasn't helped. But Saka's overcome that. And I think Rice has had a decent tournament too. Take out the Denmark game where he was abysmal. That's probably the worst I've ever seen Declan Rice play.
Yeah.
Yeah, but take that out, and I think Rice has had a pretty decent tournament too, and England are in their second successive Euro finals. Of course, Ramsdale hasn't got on the pitch yet. Do you think there's ever been a European final or any sort of international tournament final before where the substitute goalkeepers for both teams play for the same club? Because we're going to have Raya on the Spanish bench and Ramsdale on the England bench. Both of them are the first man up if something happens to the first choice. I don't ever remember this happening before.
Yeah, no. That's a really good point, Gaff. No, I've never heard that before, but I am glad that they're involved. I mean,
Raya got a game, didn't he? Raya got a game at the end of the group stages when Spain were already through, and he was fine, did nothing wrong. Ramsdale obviously hasn't got on the pitch. There was it the Denmark game that Pickford injured himself in the warm up, and there was a question of whether he was going to start, but then eventually,
I think so. Denmark,
So obviously neither of them have actually seen the field, but it's unusual for a club to have two goalkeepers at a tournament, let alone two in the final, especially you don't see that very often.
Who's starting for Spain right now?
Unai Simon or Simon.
Yeah, that's
Is he Bilbao,
right.
Simon, or Sevilla? What, is he Sevilla or Bilbao? I can't
I'm
remember which one.
pretty sure he's Bilbao,
Yeah, I
but
think so.
also,
Bilbao are in a good little spell at the minute, aren't they? So
yeah,
they're producing a lot of good players. So yes, we've had
always do really.
that.
Yeah.
So Saliba obviously lost in the other semi-final. I think Saliba's maybe been the standout Arsenal player at this tournament. Would you say?
Um, Saliba and Saka for me.
Yeah, I think what it is for me,
Saliba though, yeah, for
I
sure.
think his
Yeah.
reputation's been enhanced the most, right? I think going in, everyone knew what Saka was. There was still this weird thing about, is Saliba really as good as people think he is? He's not starting for France because Kanate starts ahead of him, and yeah, that got put to bed pretty quick. And I thought he had a sensational tournament, Saliba, really. So I think he's the one that comes away with the reputation enhanced the most.
Yeah, I definitely agree. What he didn't concede a goal until um semis, right?
To the semis, yeah,
Uh,
they didn't concede a goal to semis, and when they did, it was that absolute beauty from Yamal, and
yep,
then what was, I don't know if it's a goal or an own goal from Olmo. I think eventually they gave it to Olmo, but they had it down as an own goal at first.
yep, yep. Nice goal from Omo too. I mean, you know, it's just
He's a good
the way.
player, you know. We'll get
Yeah,
into transfers in a bit,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think he would be absolutely perfect for us for that mythical left eight position. I
I
think Olmo's a sensational player, and he's got that release clause. Again, we'll get into it get into it more in the second half, but he's got a release clause that actually gets extended because Spain are in the Euro final, so it would have expired on the 15th, and it now expires on the 20th. I think Olmo will move this summer. I'm not saying we're going to get him, but I think he will move this summer. And again, I think he'd just be a great one for us.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'd take him 100%. I don't know exactly where he's gonna go. I've not seen a ton of rumors, but yeah, he's a very quality player. Gav, I am curious, what you think about the final now, being an Englishman.
Um, I'll be watching it. I'm hoping England pull it off. Spain are obviously the better team. Spain have been the better team throughout this tournament. Spain have been the more exciting team. Honestly, I think England are going to win it. I do think England are going to win it. It might not necessarily be in normal time or even extra time, but I think, I don't know. It just seems like England played so badly at the start. They have got a bit better as the tournament's gone on, but they played so
Yeah,
badly at the start, and to just keep getting through. And they've had a lucky run, really. I mean, they've not played many good teams. I mean, Switzerland are a functional team. I think I think even you guys will say that this Dutch team isn't exactly a vintage Dutch team.
no,
So they've had the luck of the draw. Everybody else was obviously on the other side. Spain, Germany, Portugal, France were all on the other side of the draw. So they got very fortunate in that. But I do fancy England to win it on Sunday. I do.
yeah, I see it, mate. I do. I think Spain has been the team that catches the eye,
Yes.
um, for sure. But England has talent all throughout, and
And they're a very physically imposing team, England as well. Like when you look at that spine through the middle, the centre backs are obviously what the centre backs are, and then you've got Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham is a big
yep,
guy, Kane
yep,
is a big guy. Like
yep.
there is a lot of physical presence in this England team.
Yeah, and as an Arsenal podcast, I think we can poke a little fun at Kane, right?
Oh, he's been awful. There's no way
Yeah,
he should be starting. He will start, but there's no way he should be starting. It should be Watkins starting on Sunday. It won't. It will
agreed,
be Kane. But
agreed.
he's had a terrible. There was a back injury, wasn't there, for Kane before the end of the season, and I don't know. He just doesn't look right. He doesn't look right at
He
all.
doesn't.
And he's coming off. And let's be fair, Harry Kane would never be coming off at 70 minutes in tied games before
No.
now. So I do think there's something wrong there because he's coming off. But Foden's had a miserable tournament as well. I think he's been exceptionally
he's
poor.
been.
Like I said, Kyle Walker has had as bad a tournament I think as I've seen a player have.
Yeah.
But
Trippier,
but they've got to the
Yeah.
final. England have got to the
Yeah.
final, and
Yeah.
and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm hoping that Deckers and Bukayo can bring it home. And I'm hoping obviously that Bukayo can play a starring role in it. It's a real shame again that his goal got disallowed yesterday, because that would have been a really good moment for him.
Yep. Yeah, mate, I couldn't agree more. It's been a rough tournament for England, but they are in the final.
I think it's been a rough tournament all round, though, Just, to be honest with you, because I
It
think
has.
it's been
It
an
has.
absolute shit tournament. I mean,
Yeah.
the pitches have been shit. Apparently, moving around in Germany has been a nightmare with a public transport, which is not something you associate with Germany. And I just don't think the football's been good. Even Spain,
It's not.
who have been probably the best team in it, have played in patches. I just don't. There's not been many good games. Most of the games have been pretty poor, even when they've been lit up by little individual moments.
Mate, I mean, I think my like first real committed international tournament was 2002. South Korea, Japan.
Yeah, Japaria.
Yep, you got it. This has been like the worst performance I've seen from the big countries. It's been really poor.
Yeah, I mean, just all told on international tournaments for me, I mean, the first tournament I really, really remember vividly is Italia 90. And I think of all the major tournaments,
you're old, Gav.
I know, of all the major tournaments I've watched, and I've watched all the Euros and all of the World Cups since 1990. I think this and the South Africa one are the two really poor tournaments. I think this is on a par with South Africa for just the quality of play. Well, South Africa was when they changed to that stupid Jubilani ball. And everything was going 50 feet over the bar, and you had them stupid vuvuzelas ruining every game with the screeching. That was a poor tournament.
That's all fair.
Yeah.
I loved South Africa 2010.
Did
to
you?
be fair. Yeah, I did. But
I thought it was an awful tournament. But this one has been poor.
Hey, I get where you're coming from. I loved it. But to each their own.
Yeah. Well, so that's kind of where we are with them boys. So Kai obviously started for Germany up front. It was a very Kai Havertz tournament, right? Like, he looked good in parts, he looked terrible in parts. He missed some chances, he scored some penalties. You couldn't get a much more Kai tournament than the one he had.
Yeah, I mean, you basically summed it up.
There was a lot of clamour in Germany apparently for Füllkrug to replace him in the team, which I kind of get, and I think I would probably want that. Kai Havertz to me is just such a difficult player, a difficult player,
enigma.
Yeah, he really is, because he does so much well. Yeah. And then other stuff you look and you just say, well, you're just not capable of doing that. It's a really strange one. And it makes him very, very hard to move out of the team as well. Do you know what I mean? Because he plays in such a specific way that let's look at it from the Arsenal point of view now, right?
Sure.
If you move him out of the team and move Jesus in it, you have completely changed that attack, right?
Yes.
Like you have changed. Yes. It's not just we've moved one player out and moved another player in. We've changed the whole way the team functions.
Yes.
But if you look for another player like Kai, how many players that do what Kai does in the world would you say are better at it than Kai? There's not many. There's not many. Like, we can see his flaws. Nope. His flaws are there for all to see. But if that's the style of player you want, I don't see how you're going to replace him. I mean, look at long-term target Benjamin Sesko in this tournament. Right? Sure. That's kind of what you're looking at, right? He was the Havertz alternative. He was the guy that was going to come in. He looked pretty awful.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right, Gav. But I mean, he was what, 21,
No, but look,
22?
he's a young player and he's playing for
Yeah,
a team that aren't the
yeah,
best in the
Slovenia.
tournament. Do you
Yep.
know what I mean? So they're not going
Yeah,
to be dominating games and stuff. Absolutely, there's
yeah,
stuff working against him. All I'm
yeah.
saying is he didn't exactly set the world alight in this tournament. So if you're looking to replace Kai, you definitely wouldn't be saying he's an upgrade on Kai.
No. I wouldn't be saying that at all. And I was behind the Cesco release
Me too.
clause.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But yeah, I never expected him
Did
to
you change your
replace.
mind watching it? Because watching him play full games rather than just little highlights videos, I've got to say, I came away thinking this guy's not what I thought he was. Not necessarily not what I thought he was, but not as good as I thought he was. I thought he was further along in his development than he actually is.
Um, no, I think my expectations were pretty like accurately placed.
But he
But
had a couple of good shots, didn't he? He had the one that
yeah,
pinged off the post, the one just wide, and he looked dangerous at times. But there were times when, I mean, his finishing was abysmal.
yeah. I mean, I don't think we thought we were buying like a finished article. You know
No,
what I mean?
and you wouldn't be.
Yeah,
But I think for him, he made the right move for his career by staying there and
I
now
think so.
where he's going to play. Because coming and sitting on our bench would have done him no good whatsoever.
Yep, agreed. 100%. Yeah, I think he's smart to just sit tight and wait.
Yeah. Zinchenko had a very Zinchenko tournament. He played really well in a couple of games, made a few mistakes in another game, set up a goal, gave a goal away. Hey, that's the Zinchenko experience, right?
Yes, sir, it is. Um, you know, I love Zinchenko, but fact of the matter is that he is suspect defensively, you know.
Yeah, I
Um
mean it bore out at this tournament, right? I mean they left him on the bench for a game, but I think that was more fitness based. That wasn't because they didn't want him to play. He just,
yeah.
you know what Zinchenko's like. His fitness is what it is. But yeah, he was very inconsistent, and like I said, it was just a very Zinchenko tournament.
Yep. Very Zinchenko.
Yeah.
Um
Kivior, I thought Kivior did okay for Poland.
I
I
did
thought
too.
he looked quite good. I don't think
Yep.
he certainly didn't do his reputation any harm. I suspect he won't be an Arsenal player for that much longer. But again, we'll cover that in the second half. But yeah, I think he came out with some credit, right?
Yeah, definitely. I thought Kivior was very impressive. Considering his reputation, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, great showing from him. He's a young center back slash left back, and I thought he owned what he did.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Trossard, don't think Trossard was particularly impressive. Did he score? He scored in the first game, right? I think he scored a goal, and really didn't do much else. I don't know. I thought he had a pretty poor tournament, really, and as did all of the Belgians, really. I mean, none of the
Yeah,
Belgians were
Belgium.
impressive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, mate, I don't even know what to say about Belgium. I mean, they wasted their golden gen. Um, I mean,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, Trossard he was fine, but
yeah. He had a few patchy minutes.
yep.
Jorginho, I think Jorginho was pretty decent for Italy. I mean,
Yeah,
Jorginho
yeah,
does what
definitely.
Jorginho does, right? I don't think there was anything. We didn't learn anything new about 31, 32-year-old Jorginho.
No, definitely not. He definitely set the pace in a couple games, but he was Jorginho,
Yeah,
the
and I mean,
Jorginho we all know.
he's in a limited Italy side that were always going to be in trouble when they run up against a good team, and
Yep.
so it turned out, you know. I think the player that this tournament is going to end up being most impactful for the bad reasons, is Kieran Tierney. So that looked like an awful hamstring injury. You don't often see players stretch it off with a hamstring injury. We did here. That looked like one that's going to keep him out for months rather than weeks. It's probably ruined any chance of him going out even on loan this summer, which I think is where we were heading. I don't think we were going to be able to actually sell him permanently, but I thought we might get a loan, and I guess that's probably scuppered that now, right? Because he's not going to be fit till October at the earliest.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right. You know, I love Tierney, but it's a repeat of why we can't make him a mainstay in the squad. You know, regardless of what Arteta wants or whatever.
And why we can't sell him, right, just because, I mean, we loaned him out to Sociedad in the hopes that he was going to get a full season under his belt. And even if Sociedad didn't turn it permanent, you know, we'd be able to sell him. And unfortunately, what he did, rather than display his skills, was display his injury record. He had 3 separate injuries. He missed over half of the season. And then he goes to the Euros, and you're thinking, okay, well, if he can have some good, Scotland obviously are never going to go far, but if he can have some good games in there, we can maybe, drum up some interest. And
yes, sir.
Sure enough, all we see again is another long-term injury.
Yeah, mate. It's actually a real shame, but it is what it is. I think anybody that's been following Tierney knows that, shit. I mean, this is
agreed. It's part of the course, right? It's what you expect, and I think it's scuppered him. I think he's now gonna sit at Colney, riding a stationary bike, never playing.
Yes, sir.
He might not even get named in the squad. We've seen Arteta do that before with players, and he'll now be sitting there until January, unless we ain't going to cancel his contracts while he's injured. That's just not what we do as a club. You saw it with El Neni. We will not do that. He'll be at Arsenal recovering, and they're going to do everything they can to find a move for him in January. But I have a feeling that this one he's going to run until January. He'll come back, and then once he's back, we'll probably pay him off, and he'll go back to Celtic on a free. I just don't see any way around this now.
Gav, I think you're probably right, and it hurts me because I like Tierney. But
there's more at play here than that, though, isn't there, Judge? I mean, it's not his fault. You can't blame him for the fact that his hamstrings.
Of course.
He's going ping. I'm not a huge fan of Tierney, the player. That's no surprise to anybody. But I feel for the guy. He seems like a good guy, and every time he starts, you think his career is going to get better. This happens, and he's out for months again. So it is what it is. His body's let him down. The Copa America,
it's rough.
The Copa America jars, I haven't paid too much attention to it. I'll be blatantly honest.
Me neither.
Darwin Núñez going into the crowd fighting people last night. I don't know if you've seen that. If not,
I did. Yeah.
So that was interesting.
He missed the chair throw just like he misses his shots.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a long ban coming for that. There really should be. I know they're saying there's mitigating circumstances. Their families were being threatened, blah, blah, blah. But, man, you can't go throwing punches and throwing chairs in the crowd. But our boys came home early. Brazil went out, so the Gabbies go and get a nice break. And I think that pretty much rounds up the tournaments, right? Anything you want to add to the summer tournaments?
No, Gaff. I think you covered it, mate. Well done.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, listen, Judge, we'll come back in the second half. We've got some transfer rumours to discuss, both in and out. So we'll start with that, and we'll see where that takes us. Usually we end up somewhere different than we started anyway. So I'll see you after the break.
All right, mate.
All right. Hey guys, just a couple of quick halftime messages for you. Firstly, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us reach a wider audience, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Secondly, we're on all the social media platforms as the NN Pod. We're really trying to build a strong Gooner community. So next time you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, look us up, give us a like or a follow, send us a message, interact with other listeners, or just have a look around. Thanks for listening from myself, Paz, and Jazz. We really appreciate it. Welcome back into the Non-Negotiable podcast. This is part 2. Jazz, everybody's favourite subject other than referees and VAR, transfers. So we've had some strong links, some weak links, some links that make you go, what the fuck? We'll start with the strongest links that look like there might be something to it. Well, first off, David Raya made permanent. No surprise to anybody. You called it from the minute it was done. Took me a little bit longer to come around on it. It was just one that was always happening.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you did. You were right. You were right. Calafiori. So
Yes.
this is an interesting one, Calafiori.
Yes.
Because first off, he looks like a good player, right? Let's start there. He looks comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's good in the air. Technically, he's very, very good, and positionally, he looks good. He had an injury when he was at Roma at 16, where his leg basically exploded, and it was kind of like for a long time they didn't think he was actually even going to be able to play again. I think at one point there was a question whether he was going to be able to walk again. So to come back through and do this, and obviously that stunted his development at Roma. He's ended up at Bologna, who have had a great season. This one, where would you see Calafiori playing? Because I don't think we're paying 50 million quid for a player to sit on the bench, right?
Gav, this one is man, it's a little difficult. I imagine he'll be our starting left back. It's a weird one though. He's got more time at center back, left and right, than he does at left back.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing what Arteta, what he likes in his fullbacks, I mean, I imagine he's going to be our starting left back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's exactly why he's coming in. You've seen Manchester City go to the model with a 4 centre backs. If Calafiori come in, that's exactly where we would be. The two fullbacks, wing backs, outside halves, whatever you want to call them, be it Ben White or Timber or Calafiori, have got that ability to move forward, move into midfield. They're all comfortable carrying the ball. I think Timber's probably the better passer of the three.
I think so.
Calafiori looks maybe the best dribbler of the three. Would you say he's very, very comfortable coming out with the ball at his feet?
Yes,
which I think is a big thing on that left hand side, because I do think we got stuck a couple of times last season with Zinchenko obviously falling out of favour and his usual in and out with injuries. I think we got stuck over that side a little bit. I think this is quite an exciting signing if it goes ahead. I've got to be honest, when the rumours first started, I was like, yeah, right. We're getting an Italian out of Serie A when Juventus are interested. You know what I mean? Like, we know how this goes. Usually when this stuff happens, I think it's usually the player's agent trying to force Juve into making a move, and then the club sells them to Juve on a 5-year loan deal with an option of paying €75 at the end of it.
Plus a pack of spaghetti.
But it does appear at this point that, first off, Calafiori is actually sold on joining us, and secondly, Bologna are not going to turn around and sell him to Juve for nothing at the last minute. So, I don't know that this is definitely going to happen, but it does seem one that's reasonably advanced. Yeah,
I agree, Gav, and I like it. I do. I like it. Apparently, he is a he can play left back, center back, right back. Just depending. I think this is a very high quality signing, especially for 50 million euros.
And it fits the mold, right? Like, this is kind of what Arteta likes, especially in the back line. Players that can move around a little bit, players that are comfortable on the ball. This is exactly what Arteta looks for. So it makes so much sense. Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I don't have much familiarity with the player. I've watched him in the Euros for Italy, but he looks an absolute stud, honestly.
Yeah, and he's still only 22, so he's going to get going to get better.
Great point.
I have heard some fears that he's being brought in because we worry we're going to lose Gabriel. We had obviously everything that kicked off at the start of last season. I don't really see that with Gabriel.
Me
I
neither.
don't think I think he would cover for Gabriel. If Gabriel was injured, we could move him in there, put someone else at left back. Personally, I don't want to see Tomiyasu or Timber at left back very much. I just don't like them there. I don't think either of them are going to excel there. I think they can do a job there. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying they're bad players and they can't do it. But I don't think either of them are of the quality as a left back to be the starter. I think both of them are of the quality. Well, Timber especially is of the quality to start a right back, but he's not a left back. So I think this is a position that we desperately need. I don't think it leads to Gabriel going. I do think it may lead to Kivior going. Go on.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Kivior goes this window.
Yeah, I do too. And I thought that for a long time. There was that little spell where he started at left back when we were on that run of wins when, he wasn't really doing much, but because he wasn't Zinchenko, the fan base was like absolutely captivated by him. And then, of course, as soon as we played a decent team, Man City and Bayern, everything went tits up. But he's, but he's another player, Kivior, where I think Kivior is absolutely fine, right? Like if you look at him as, it wasn't his fault that the 4 players who would have been penciled in to start at left back all got injured, so he had to go at left back. That's not Kivior's fault. That's not his position.
Yeah, agreed.
And we've really not seen him in his actual position for us because Gabriel plays every game, and touch wood, Gabriel continues to play every game.
Yeah, I agree, Gav. And I think if Kivior stepped into that left center back spot, I think he would do pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'd be fine, but I do think Calafiori looks, and we haven't seen him enough to make any definitive, projections on it. But I do think from what I've seen of him, he looks a class above where Kivior is. Where Kivior,
he definitely does.
Yeah, Kivior is a fine 4th choice centre back, basically for all intents and purposes. Whereas I think Calafiori is a starting caliber player, and I think that's a very different thing, And Arteta made some interesting quotes the other day where he basically, to paraphrase, said that we need to be better on our worst day than everyone else's on their good day. And I think this is how you do it. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just creating more and more options for yourself, right?
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I think, linking that Arteta quote, yes, I think
again, we're talking floor raisers, ceiling raisers, blah, blah, blah. I think this is a signing that would do both because I think it would raise the floor, but I also think it would raise the ceiling with someone like him starting at left back.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and I think that's like where it's coming from. You've got a brilliant Italian left back that's starting.
And he's got great hair too.
Yeah, he does. Yes,
you can't look past the hair, and I think every team could always use some more good hair. It makes up for the fact that Declan Rice's hair is always abysmal.
I like Rice's hair.
No, it's too high. The hair's too high. It needs to be trimmed down. That hair is at least 2 inches too high at all times. It's the one thing, the one area of Declan Rice that can be improved on is undoubtedly the hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think just to get that out of the way. So the other signing, just where a bid has actually gone in and been rejected, a whopping 50 grand, for Wolves backup goalkeeper. I keep wanting to call him David Bentley, and that's not his name.
I do the same.
He's coming. He would be joining us to be a 3rd choice goalkeeper. I personally am getting to the point where I don't think Ramsdale is going to go, just because I don't see where we're going to sell him to. I think we could be in for another season of Ramsdale sitting on the bench, and Bentley is the 3rd choice behind him. But I mean, this is a signing that really isn't going to make a damn bit of difference at all to the first team. He's being brought in because he's a nice guy and he's a good part of the goalkeeping group, and Inaki Kana knows him, right? This is part of the goalkeeping rather than actually being a goalkeeper. It's more behind the scenes as a training partner and all that, I think.
Yeah, mate. I couldn't agree more. Um, we're dealing with a lot of turnover with the goalkeepers in our youth academy. Um,
Yeah, because we signed that Danish goalkeeper too, who you're probably never ever going to see play for Arsenal, but he's
nope, never.
17.
Yep.
But he
Nope.
come in. There's some number boosting going on in the academy as well. But we are dealing
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
we're dealing with a huge turnover at goalkeeper. I mean, Karl Heinz signed the new contract, but he's obviously going to go out on loan, so he's not going to
Yep.
be around. So Bentley will just come in if we get the deal done. Apparently, Wolves are asking for 1 million, and I know people say, "Well, he's a Premier League player," but he's not.
Which is it's fucked, Gav.
Yeah, it is like 50 grand to 1 million. There's a big difference. I mean, I'm sure in the end we'll settle on like 300,000 or something. But it's just, it's just, yeah, it's one that at the end of the day makes no difference to us. But I think, like I said, the biggest thing, what do you see happening with Ramsdale here? Because is Bentley coming in to be the number 3 makes sense, but it means that should we get rid of Ramsdale, we now have to go and find a number 2 from somewhere. Are we reaching a point where Ramsdale's just going to have to like it or lump it and sit on the bench? And is that a good thing? Because I'm not quite so sure it is.
Man, Gav, that's a really, really good question. Um, I think um, I think we're gonna end up signing a second goalkeeper and selling Ramsdale. I do. Um,
I think it
there's
makes sense, right? Because I don't think this situation last season was good for anybody. It wasn't good for Romero. It wasn't good for Ramsdale.
Yep.
And it's affecting Ramsdale when he plays, I believe.
Yep.
I don't
I
think
do
we're
too.
seeing the best of Ramsdale when he comes in. And this was one of the things in the first half we talked about when Pickford got that injury and we were wondering if he wasn't going to play. England took 2 backup goalkeepers that between them played about 4 games last season.
Yep.
And that is ludicrous because when they come in, Ramsdale's coming in cold. His confidence is shot. I don't think we're seeing the best of Ramsdale, and I think the camera keep cutting to Ramsdale on the bench all the time is making Raya uncomfortable as well. And we now do have a clear hierarchy, right? So like we've known it since he very first came into the team, but Raya is the one.
I did.
Yeah, well, no, I knew it when he came into the team. I just didn't think he was going to come into the team.
Sorry, mate. I was just messing with you.
No, you are right though. You did call it. I thought that Ramsdale being the better goalkeeper was going to be enough, and it turns out that what we needed, and this is completely right by the way. I'm not saying it is the wrong move. It turned out that Raya, who isn't quite as good a goalkeeper, has got other strengths that made us better as a team, and Raya will continue to be the number 1, and Ramsdale will continue to be the number 2. And maybe that makes it a little bit easier this season where we haven't got Arteta lying about subbing goalkeepers and it being a competition. Do you know what I mean? Like if everyone's got their role defined, maybe it makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. It's such a small thing, but I do think that what Raya gave us, like offensively, made a big difference. And I love Ramsdale. So like I'm not trying to trash him.
I'm with you.
But
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. The way, especially the way Raya comes out and deals with crosses. I think to me that is the biggest single difference, and then that allows him and allows us to get out quicker and move quicker because the ball is in his hands rather than bouncing around in the box trying to get it under control. So, and that's what I mean when I say the better goalkeeper. What I'm really talking about is Ramsdale is a much better shot stopper than David Raya, by a long distance. Like Raya cannot,
and I agree 100%.
Raya can't have the sort of game that Ramsdale had at White Hart Lane the other year. He couldn't have the sort of game that Ramsdale had at Liverpool. He just isn't that sort of goalkeeper. But Ramsdale also cannot keep the line as high as Raya does. He doesn't claim the crosses the way Raya does. So it's all part of goalkeeping. It's just different aspects to it.
Yeah, and that's the best way to put it, right?
I mean, and the trade-off was worth it at the end of the day. I questioned it.
Yep.
A lot of people questioned whether the upgrade was big enough, and I think what we didn't really understand was how big the upgrade was in certain areas, even if there was a downgrade somewhere else. You know, the fact that Raya is only 5'1" it's amazing the way he claims crosses. considering he's actually smaller than Maradona.
Yeah, he's got those paws on him, doesn't he?
Yeah, the big hands.
Yep.
Big hands. You
Big
know what they say?
hands.
You know what they say? Big hands, big gloves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
exactly.
so that's that with a goalkeeper. So just the other links have been a little bit thin on the ground, really. Nico Williams has been linked with us and with just about everybody else this summer.
Yep.
Do you think the fee, obviously, it's a release clause that has to be paid up front? I don't think
It's not the fee, right?
problem for us. No, it's the salary. He's on over 200 grand a week at Bilbao.
Yep.
You can look at it and say, well, he's a good player and that's not a lot to pay for Arsenal. And by and large, you're right, but he's going to want a big chunk to move. I've been hearing about 350 grand a week. He's looking for to move, which is almost 100,000 more than our highest earner, who's on 265, which is Kai Havertz and I believe Jesus are both on 265. The problem is, if you bring Nico Williams in on 350, you can't have Nico Williams earning 100 grand a week more than Bukayo Saka. You just can't. You can't have that. So then we've got 5 players who are immediately due an upgrade because of this. We're already at the point where next summer we're going to be negotiating the Saliba and the Saka contracts again, right? Because they're both going to, next summer, they'll both hit the 2 years to go point. As much as you don't want to think about it, that's where we're going to be. I think if you bring Nico Williams in and smash your wage structure, for someone, by the way, who I think is a really good player, but I do not know that he's better than Gabriel Martinelli. So I think he's very similar to Martinelli, actually. I think he's a bit more with the ball, where Martinelli's a bit more off the ball. But I think in terms of end products and that, I think they're very similar. I just don't know you can smash your wage structure for this player. As good as he is and as much as I like him as a player, I just don't know you can smash your wage structure for it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more.
Would you do it? Would you smash the wage structure for him, knowing that the odds are that there's a very good chance that he's not going to be the starter in that position? I mean, you'd do it. You'd smash your wage structure for that starting left eight, right? Or you'd smash your wage structure for that starting centre forward who's going to play every game. But can you really do it for a winger that might be sharing time?
Look, I love the player, but you're right. You cannot pay a potentially
it's a squad altering amount of money, isn't it? That's what it is, because everyone in the squad is going to want raises on the back of it.
Yep. And I love the player. I
do too.
I think he would add so much talent. But mate, I mean, the money is it's dumb.
Yeah, it is. I just don't think you could do it. You would be better off with a much higher transfer fee, right? So yes. Calafiori is a good example of this, right?
Yes.
50 million seems like quite a lot of money for a 22-year-old left back, right? It seems like
Euros.
amount of money.
Euros.
Yeah, but it seems like a lot of money. But when you look at the contract, I'm hearing he's somewhere between 60 and 80,000 a week, which, all right, I'll work for that. But in terms of top Premier League players, that's a brilliant situation, brilliant place for us to be in.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I love the Calafiori deal. He can play left back, left center back, right center back.
Williams can play both sides. That is the one thing, is that he can play both sides. Now, whether Arteta would play in both sides
he wouldn't.
Is another. Yeah, exactly. But he could play both sides. But I think this is a deal that would be more likely to get done, weirdly, if the transfer fee was 90 million instead of the 50 million or 55 million release clause, but his wages were 150 grand a week. I think we'd be more likely to do that deal than do the deal at 55 and 350 a week.
I think you're absolutely right, Gaff.
Yeah, and that's just where we sit on that. Have you heard any other rumours, Juz? Any other specific players linked? Because the only other one I've heard is a young winger called Asprilla from Watford. And it sounds like he's very raw. And if we did move for him, it would probably be sub 10 million, and he would probably end up being a youth team style player, maybe someone we loan out, almost like a Marquinhos level player, really.
Mate, I hate to say it. I follow this really closely, but no, man. I think
The links just aren't there at the minute, I think.
yeah, they're not. I mean, we have
stop that.
we have the Euro going on, the Copa going on, and yeah, there's just not the magnitude of news that's going on.
I expect that to explode now, though. Now that both tournaments are basically over, we're at the point where it's the final. The players are all coming home. So I do expect that to explode now, and we're waiting for dominoes to fall as well. So Palhinha is now officially gone to Bayern Munich, right? Fulham have got 47 million quid. Does that free up them to go and buy someone? In the last couple of minutes, Xerxes to Man United has just got a here we go, just so you're aware, because you probably wouldn't have seen this. The fee apparently is going to be higher.
I hate that.
The fee is higher than the 40 million release clause, because they wanted installments. So I haven't heard what the fee is, but it's higher than 40 million, but they've got the installments. So apparently we've had a here we go off Fabrizio Romano for that. But that's another domino to fall, and I think that's what we're waiting for. Mbappe obviously going to Real Madrid. Maybe someone at Real Madrid wants out. Maybe it's Rodrigo. There's things that are going to happen that are going to push this market forwards.
Yes, and I think what's it's not weird, I guess, but having Copa and having Euros always pushes the deal deadline back. Yeah, exactly. And
things just happen later in these summers. Like it's just the way it is. I think you'll see it ramp up now. Did you see the story this morning that Marseille have made contact about Eddie Nketiah?
I did.
And so the fee being reported is 21 million rising to 30, and Arsenal are looking for 30 rising to 40, or 30 rising to 35. I take this with a huge grain of salt, because Marseille are very advanced in talks to sign Mason Greenwood. That 21 rising to 30, that 21 rising to 30 figure was the figure I first heard talked about for that deal. And then all of a sudden, it's now creeping up to 30 plus 6, that Greenwood deal. I don't know how interested Marseille are in Eddie Nketiah, and how much is to send a message to Man United that if you don't basically drop your demands a little bit, we'll move on.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Can you see him buying both?
No.
Could you see him
absolutely not.
30 million on Greenwood and then another 30 million on Nketiah?
No club in Ligue 1 would do that. Ligue 1.
Yeah, Ligue 1. No, I can't see that either. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love it to happen. And I think it'd be a good move for Eddie too, because I think Eddie could go there, smash in a few goals, Balogun style, and maybe earn himself a move back. So I could, I think that would be a good move all around. I hope it's true, but I am going to take that one with a pinch of salt.
Same gap. Yeah.
One that looks like it is going to happen, Jazz, and could be completed before the end of the week is Nuno Tavares. So Lazio, it's going to be a loan with an obligation to buy for 7 million plus a sell-on. Happy with that?
Yeah, Gav. I am.
It's a good deal, mate. We get our money back. If there's a sell-on clause as well, if it's 15, 20%, whatever it is. I was never as down on Nuno as a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to see him starting at left back. But I do.
I like him.
Yeah, I'm surprised no one, with the way football is now and the way we use positional stuff, I'm really surprised no one has thrown him out on the right wing and said, go beat some players, dribble in and shoot. I just, to me, it seems such an obvious thing.
Same.
And bear in mind, I am the don't be stupid, players don't change positions guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am that guy. I'm the guy that tells you that the centre half is not going to go and play defensive.
You are stupid.
Yeah, I exactly. So, I am that guy. But with Nuno, it makes sense, right? To just shove him out on that right wing. Because what does he like to do? He likes to run at players and he likes to blast the ball over the bar.
Yeah. No. I get it 100%. It's an interesting move. I don't love it, but it makes sense. And depending on what the sell-on clause is, we may really benefit from it.
Yeah, and honestly, mate, it's more than I thought we would get for him. 7 million is more than I thought we were going to get. I thought we were going to end up basically giving him away, or maybe taking like £1 million. Do you know what I mean? Because where is he going to go? He's not going to England. He went to Marseille and they said no, thank you. So where is he going to go? This Lazio link kind of came out of nowhere for me. I hadn't heard anything. But apparently he'd been building up in the Italian press for a while. There were like 3 or 4 Italian teams linked with him. But again, I think for him, it's a good move. He's obviously got to get out of Arsenal and start playing. And for us to get our money back and plus a sell on, I think it's decent. And by the way, I think this is almost validation of the signing itself, because I think this is the sort of signing that's worth doing and taking the risk, because if it doesn't come off, it's not the end of the world. If it does come off, then you've got Gabriel Martinelli. Do you know what I mean? So I think this is actually a testament to the signing and to the idea behind the signing.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. I love the way you put it, and that's exactly how I feel. Get these I don't want to say low risk, but get these high potential signings out of like Portuguese, Dutch, Belgian leagues, and pay sub 10 million and then flip them.
Yeah, and you've got to learn from what went on as well, right? Like, I think we'll touch on Sambi next, but I think with Sambi and with Tavares, I think we made the same mistake with both of them. And part of it was circumstance, right? They came in to a dysfunctional club where the team was not performing and they were thrown in and asked to raise the level of the team when they shouldn't have been.
Yes.
They'd have come in and both immediately gone out on loan to decent clubs. I think this could have worked very differently. Look at Sambi's loan last year. Had Luton stayed up, we would have got 25 million quid for Sambi. Had Luton stayed up, guaranteed, right? Had he not got injured, we might have got 25 to 30 million from someone else.
Yes.
As it was, he got injured, he missed a few months, and Luton went down. Perfect storm. We're kind of, screwed on that one. But it doesn't mean that it was a bad signing to bring Sambi in. I just hope we've learned from how we deal with it, because I think Sambi and Tavares should both have come in and gone straight out of the door, be it to a club in League be it to a club in Serie A. Yeah, wherever it is, they should have come in and gone straight out the door. And I think that is what Chelsea do. And that is, everyone's looking at Chelsea going, how do you get so much money for these players? Because they send them on loan. And look, they got a bit lucky with Amari Hutchinson, right? Because they sent him out to a club where he was going to be a first choice player and they performed above all expectations and come up. It's not that different to what we did with, why can I never remember the right back's name?
Will Walters?
No, the right back that is still there that we sent out and he nearly got promoted and they lost in the playoff final. Was it Luton he lost in the playoff final? It's double-barreled now. Jesus Christ.
Fuck's sake. Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't know. Anyway.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. I feel like I'm letting you down.
No, we sent him out and he went on loan, but they didn't come up, right? And because they didn't come up, the money wasn't there to buy him. The fact is that because Ipswich have come up, they've got the money to pay this. And that is partly luck.
Well, I mean, that's it, isn't it, Gav? I mean, like, look at what Burnley did last season, or Forest, previously.
Brooke Norton Cuffey, that's who I was thinking of. Brooke Norton Cuffey.
Oh shit! Yeah, of course.
So he went out, didn't he? He went out to Rotherham and then he went out to Coventry, and he was excellent at Coventry, but they lost in the playoff final. Had they have come up, Norton Cuffey would have gone to Coventry permanently, and we'd have got a decent fee for him. We were just unlucky in that they lost. Ipswich won the game that Coventry lost, and that is the difference between Chelsea getting 21 million for Amari Hutchinson and us loaning out Norton Cuffey to another championship side.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I can't argue with that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, but we just got to hope that these mistakes get learnt from, and and not necessarily, that one wasn't necessarily a mistake, but like I said, with the Sambi and the Tavares ones, I think the mistake was not loaning them out initially. But where we were at as a club at that time, we brought them in, and instead of them being what they were, which were prospects that might generate some income or on outside chance might have a chance of playing, we catapulted them into the first team squad because our first team squad at that point was shit.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah, there's no even arguing with that. I mean, that is what happened.
Yeah. And we were playing Europa League games at the time. So you need all these fringe players. Now those fringe players don't have that game time.
Yep. Exactly. I'm curious. You had to know this was coming. Let's talk Emile Smith Rowe.
Yeah. Well, this is what I had in mind, Jazz, when I said about the Polinia transfer to Bayern Munich, because that gives Fulham some cash. I think we both said, right, that Fulham was probably the best place for him, where he could go and really perform in that kind of environment.
Yes. I'd love to see him at Fulham, honestly. I mean, I want to keep him. Just to be clear to all our listeners, I love Emile Smith Rowe, but if he was going to go somewhere, Fulham would be my pick.
To me, there's three clubs that make an awful lot of sense. One is Fulham. One is West Ham, if Paqueta gets this ban that everyone is expecting. And
surely he will, right?
Surely. And the other is Crystal Palace. Yeah. If Eze joins Elise, in leaving, I think that is those three clubs to me make so much sense for Emile Smith Rowe, because this move is going to be so important for his career. He has to go somewhere where he's going to play, and those three clubs make sense. And quite frankly, I would not be averse to us taking a slightly less fee on him with a bigger sell-on clause, because he is one player that I can imagine going somewhere for. And by the way, I think the same about Reece Nelson as well. I think they're the sort of players that could go somewhere, and we're going to get fuck all for Nelson. But if you took 20 million on Smith Rowe, but you took a large sell-on clause, I would not be opposed to that, and I would back Emile Smith Rowe to perform and get a move somewhere, because I would not be surprised if he ended up at somewhere like Chelsea for 80 million in 2 years' time.
Yeah, I agree with you on Emile Smith Rowe, and I don't want to say I don't agree with you on Reece Nelson.
You don't have to. You don't have to. Not everyone agrees with that. I think there's super talent in Reece Nelson, and I know a lot of people don't. Moaning Imran doesn't like Reece Nelson. He don't think there's anything there. But I think there's talent there. Yeah, I think there's talent there. I think if he went somewhere where he got a run of games, I would not be surprised to see him earn a big move somewhere. And it's fine if you don't agree with that. That's just the way I see it.
No. I'm in agreement with you 100%. I think Reece has a lot of talent. I think the wages I
agree with that. I don't think we can move him. He's on $100 grand a week. No one is paying $100 grand a week. I agree with you, but that maybe that is the way to move him, though, Jazz, because obviously you've got to massively reduce the fee to make up for them wages. You have to. So maybe if you do,
you're thinking like 5 mil.
Yeah, exactly. Something like 5 mil, but with a big sell-on clause, so that the buying club are not hamstrung by them wages because they've saved it on the fee, but we're still getting it back on the back end.
Yeah, I could see that, Jeff. Yep.
I think you're going to see a lot more of these deals, Judge, where the fees are maybe a little bit lower, especially with PSR, where the fees are a little bit lower up front, but with a higher sell-on. I don't mean these fake PSR transfers between Chelsea and Everton and Aston Villa and, the fraudulent transfers. I mean actual transfers. I think you might see a few lower fees with higher sell-on clauses. I think they just make a lot of sense. It's been regular on the continent for a long time. Just in England, it really hasn't been the way things have been done.
Yeah, I think you're right, Gaff. Especially with regards to academy players, we're going to see that more and more. So yeah, I think you're spot on there.
Same with the buybacks as well, right? Like England,
Yeah, buybacks
never
too.
did buybacks. And I'm not a huge fan of the buyback. I would rather have the sell on because I think the odds on you ever buying that player back are slim. You know, I know Real Madrid have done it with Morata and stuff where they've actually bought him back to then sell him on. We tried that. Do you remember we tried that with Wellington a few years ago and they found the medical?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
But
yeah, I also remember Cesc Fabregas, and I don't want to talk about it.
yeah, well, that was an option, wasn't it? That we just
An option. Yeah, that's fair.
But,
yeah,
and that was a player we didn't want to let go. You know, we're talking about players that we actively want to sell.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, that's a bit different. Just touch on one quick. Mario Kozadubri just gone to Brighton. Good move for him. I mean, we didn't have much choice in the matter. He wouldn't sign a new deal, which I don't blame him for. You know, he wasn't getting the game time. He's got Bukayo Saka standing in front of him. I completely understand him wanting to go and move. And Brighton's a good club.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with this at all. I think it's a good move for the player. At that age, you've got to be thinking about your career first. I think going to Brighton is super sharp. I'm about it. I hate to lose him, but I also think that as long as we're title contenders, you know, he wasn't going to get minutes. So it's the best for all parties, I think.
Yeah, and we will get a fee for him, but it's going to be a small fee. Basically, Arsenal and Brighton will get together and try and hammer out a fee. If they can't, then it will go to a tribunal. The tribunal will take into account what the clubs were valuing him at, any offers Arsenal have taken in the past, his appearances and all that sort of stuff, which obviously are few and far between. But that will come into it. One thing we won't get if it goes to a tribunal is a sell-on clause, unfortunately. It will just be a straight cash homie, and everybody has to basically abide by the rules. So whatever it is, Brighton have to pay it. Whatever it is, we have to accept it unless we can come to an agreement. And from what I understand, when the clubs are doing these agreements, again, sell-on clauses are not in them. It will be a straight cash consideration from Brighton to Arsenal.
Brilliantly said, Gav. Yeah, very professional.
Yeah, thank you. All right, mate. Well, thank you for joining tonight. I appreciate it. We will be back. What is it? Thursday. We'll be back probably at the start of next week after the Euros. Just we'll go through the Euro final next week, and hopefully there'll be some more movement on players and transfers because I think we're about to get into silly season. Right, it's about to heat up.
But Gav, would you say that was a Saka handball before the penalty?
Let me start by saying it wasn't a penalty. I mean, that's the first thing. It was never a foul. Was it a handball?
It was tough. It was tough.
It was a handball, but because of what came after it, I'm surprised they didn't give it. It was a get out, right? Like the ref.
Yeah, it was a get out. That's a good point.
Just giving the handball and no one complains. But he gave. I mean, I don't see how it was a penalty. I really don't see how that's a penalty. But it is what it is. He gave it, and Holland are out. So suck on it.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyways, Gav, hey, I missed you, mate. We'll do this again in a couple of days, right?
We'll get back into it. All right, mate. Have a good night. Right. See you later, everybody.
You too.
Bye.